from the second video, I had mentioned something about painting from your experiences and you are what you paint. Well, I fell in love with antiques that had this beautiful textural finish to it, and it certainly didn't look like something out of a Eaton's or Sears catalog. It had some real quality to it. It wasn't particle board, it was roughed up pine that was 100 years old, attacked probably by several children in its heyday, which I found really fascinating, and it became probably a hallmark of what I was doing with other things. So I had this beautiful relationship with Newfoundland. I've been there many times, and I like finding things that are there because they're old, they're weathered, and they're different. They're the things that you will find in Newfoundland you won't find in Ontario. Because I grew up in Thunder Bay and we as kids hunted birds and my buddy hunted moose and deer. I didn't, I just walked with them. So I'm always fascinated with antlers and that sort of thing. So I found this in Green Gardens in Newfoundland, and this was secured at the top of an old fishing hut, and they were selling fish out of here. So if you look at the whole painting, we have this nice, beautiful, soft sky, and we play the contrast of that with a textural foreground and the antlers, and it's all encompassing and gives the, in my opinion, real quality to the work, and certainly lots of fun to paint and a real challenge. So this is kind of a weathered door. It's probably 50 to 100 years old. It's got the fisherman's phone number on there, which is kind of fun. And these are all, the other thing you look for are quirky things that I guess give the painting a little bit of flavor. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking for. And it's, you know, I don't want to paint ordinary. I don't want to paint like everybody else. And I want the work to be memorable. I've had people look at paintings and go, wow, I remember that image. It was so powerful, and that was like 10 years ago. And that's a real compliment to me. I really like that. We're going to move over now to another painting which I enjoy doing. This is what I would call a still life. So this one up here is sort of a still life, but a landscape, and it's in my yard. Okay, we're talking about subject matter and why we choose to paint what we do. Again, I'm always looking for something that's not running down the main avenue. It's just something that's, you know, maybe a side road. This is a castle tree house that my son had built when he was going through some difficult times when his mom was passing away. Anyways, it was brought to my attention by my wife, who said, you should look at the tree house. It had just been raining, and she thought it was a painting, and it had been sitting in our bush for almost 6 years, and me driving past it all the time. I never really recognized it, but after seeing it, I was just so overwhelmed in its power of sitting up there in the tree and almost looking like a Darth Vader helmet. I couldn't believe what I'd been passing by. So I thought, yeah, I mean, how many people paint tree houses? It's probably not, you know, a mainstay for a lot of artists. So that was the thing too that caught my eye. It was just a little bit different. And again, it's all about texture and the linear movement up and down with the trees, and this ladder that is unclimbable, it's broken, and this is maybe another aspect I want to bring in to why we paint things. I don't like all my paintings looking pretty and safe. I like the element of angst that maybe leaves you a little uneasy. So a lot of people don't see Darth Vader's helmet there until I draw it out, and I certainly love the fact that you can't go up that ladder because it's broken. And if you do, you'll kill yourself. I like that. I like that being part of the story. And while I was painting it, I was almost fascinated in what was coming out of the painting and what the painting was saying to me while I was doing it. So it was a really wonderful relationship between me and the work. So I'm just going to make reference to painting my love affair with antiques. And I just happened to have found this at an antique shop from Ireland. It had only been in Canada for like 2 or 3 days, and without hesitation, I didn't even care what it cost. I need to buy that. So we set it up in the living room, and I lived with it for about 6 months to almost a year. And I was being interviewed by a reporter, and she goes, so what's with the rocking horse? And I went, well, it's my love affair with antiques. Does it go deeper than that, she said. And I realized that when I was 5 and 6, 7 years old, after watching all the cowboy TV programs like, you know, Gene Autry and Hopalong Cassidy and Roy Rogers, I had this love affair with being a cowboy. And this was my childhood. Again, you're buying your childhood back. And I was so blown away that I had this realization much later in my life that I had this love affair with horses. So I ended up, in the end, buying 3 of them, 1 for each of my children. This painting ended up being like a 5-foot watercolor. We did prints of it. It went all across Canada, and they're still selling today, and that was back in 1987. It's probably much akin to being a benchmark painting for me, like At the Crease, done by Ken Danby. Again, this is all about texture and drawing texture, painting texture, using my very, very famous and favorite brush, the fan brush. And the background is soft, so you get to play the yin-yang game, soft versus texture. And oddly enough, it was selling so well because everybody was painting their children's bedrooms with this forest green, and it was a really popular color back in the late 80s. And sure enough, I mean, I had this green in the back of this print, and people wanted it to use as a decorating piece, which I was okay with, but it was just kind of funny how I stumbled into that. It wasn't calculated or anything. So that's the story of the glider and the rocking horse, which I still have today, and I still certainly enjoy what came out of it. It's probably one of my very, very best paintings. Okay, just a short little comment on talking about the usefulness of textures and marrying it with landscape, and in this instance, a lighthouse, which I did lighthouses for almost 20 years. It was a love affair I had with the building and the structure for all the symbolic reasons that you get from a lighthouse. But if I wanted to draw your attention over to this little folk boat here, I was buying handmade folk boats in Nova Scotia and collecting them. And the chair is from New Brunswick, which it's all personal stuff. Again, it's the stuff I've found on my trips going to Nova Scotia. And it became a nice little anchor for another lighthouse painting with a handmade boat that sits on a chair, and it's called Boat and Chair. And again, the whole background is a real soft blue, and it's kind of, a neutral area, and then I'm playing it off a textured area in the foreground. And I know that the brain likes to see this. It's called yin yang, and I use it over and over again. It's just a study, and it actually became a big oil painting, so I was quite happy with it. In conclusion, I wanted to talk about the power of the brain and the things that you've acquired in your lifetime that you want to make a statement about. And there's no greater satisfaction for a poet or a dancer to answer that call. Certainly an artist has that ability to make these statements and become one with the paper or canvas while you're painting. And it gives your life purpose, and it makes you maybe more aware of the world around you and the power within it. And I think at the end, once you sign something like that, there's a certain amount of gratification there, and that's why we keep looking for new subject matter and continue to paint. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.